Hi everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel. We are delightful that you are still watching our videos, and we appreciate so much. Today we have a visitor, as we have been promising you guys. I hope you enjoy the show, and keep subscribing for more and more videos and other information. Our guest, just welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much, Steve, and thank you so much, our viewers. My name is Francis, and I appreciate for being hosted here. It's my first time to be here, and I like the work, guys, you are doing. You are going far.
Thank you very much. Francis, songesha kidogo tu nyuma, kichwa inakata. I think we are okay with that. Francis, tell us more about you. Tell us where you come from, what's your name, where you brought up, where you schooled. Yes.
Thanks again, viewers. My name, as you've heard, is Francis Jero. I come from Kirinyaga County. I was brought up in a village called Kemunye in Geshogo constituency. So many years back, that is when I was born. I schooled at Mogumo Primary School, where I studied up to class 8. Then after that, I was enrolled to Kiamotogo Boys High School, where I pursued my A-level exam, and I did my exam in 2007. Later on, I joined Roare College of Accounts, where I studied accounts up to section 4. That's all about my studies. And now the rest after studies, now I started experiencing the real life situation, as in I just came into the society and started what other men do.
Okay, Francis, how was your life in primary school? What were some challenges in the school? What were some advantages of the school? What did you learn in primary school and secondary school? Some detailed information.
Being brought from I have both of my parents are there. I have my mom and my dad who are supportive. In my primary school, I studied well, and just like other students, the challenges that they undergo, issues like school fees and what have you in primary school. You remember by then it was during those days where you had to pay your school fees in time, just in case you have to be sent back home. My primary school system wasn't that easy, though I faced a lot of challenges, of which most of them I overcame. And by grace of God, I made it. I made it to a point of joining high school. Though you remember those times when you were in school, you had to be in school very early in the morning. You had to, being neatness wasn't the issue. You remember by then, you could just wake up early in the morning and then wash your face and then rush to school.
Yes.
Then in the evening, I had to come back home. The car was there, it was waiting for me. She was waiting for me to go to Marishonyuko in the Kichaka. After that is after school in the evening. I had to go every day. That was my daily chore. Over the weekend, I had to go to take the cow to the bush, and at least, yeah. Those are some of the activities that were allocated to me while I was young. And being brought up in a village whereby we were living as a family, where my grandfather, my grandma, brothers to my dad were living in the same homestead, that's plot of a 50 by 100 kind of. You see, every door was after the other. That is, you could see your uncle's house just adjacent to your house. So there were not much activities. My parents were relying on the vibarua. They could wake up early in the morning, go and pick majani chai. My dad was a casual worker somewhere. Now the challenges were there, just as usual. But I thank God that didn't bar me from pursuing what I had to pursue. After that, I did well in my KCP. Then I joined high school, Kiamotogo Boys. After realizing the kind of family that I come from, I had to be serious with my education, and I had to study hard. I had to study hard to ensure that at least the kind of poverty that we used to live in, at least I won't still be in the same poverty when I grow up. That's the mentality of every student, and especially those people who are brought up in low income earning families and middle income earning families. Those are some of the mentalities that they have, and they usually work hard.
Yes, I understand the goals of students to change
the lives of their parents and their future lives too.
Yeah.
So in high school, I also faced a lot of challenges whereby school fees wasn't easy to get. So most of the time I used to find myself sent back home for school fees. But since I was so much dedicated to my studies, after reaching home, which wasn't far away from our home, I was in a boarding school, by the way. It wasn't far away from home, so it was a walking distance. I could walk home. Suppose we have been chased in the afternoon, I was walking to home. Then I spent that night at home, just informing my parents that I've been chased for school fees. Then early in the following morning, irrespective of whether the school fees is there or it's not, I had to travel to walk back to school with hopes that I won't be caught by our headmaster, who was very harsh by that time. He was very harsh, so I just walked back to school because missing lessons wasn't part of me. So I used to ensure at least I have spent part of my time in school.
Okay.
So after my parents seeing the effort that I had, they could at least work hard and at least find they have cleared my school fees in time.
Okay, guys, tell me, nyinyi mlikuwa mnafukuzwa ama mlikuwa mnatumwa nyumbani mkachukue pesa? Francis, what did I want to ask you? From the process of joining the process, how was the process of you joining the college?
As I've told you, my viewers, that my studies in high school wasn't easy because of school fees challenges. The moment I finished my Form 4, I scored well. I can't complain. I scored well. I actually had points of joining campus direct, but due to the challenges which were there, I didn't join campus. So I had to go back home, and I relied mostly on those chores which could at least help me earn a living. And the vibarua, they were hard back home. So I worked there as a casual worker for a period of 2 years. From the time I completed my high school, I worked for 2 years, and life was difficult. It was really difficult. So by the time I was the second year was coming to an end. In January that year, that is, I enrolled. Okay, I looked for a course which could fit me, with no guidance, with nothing, just merely because I was good in mathematics in high school and in my entire curriculum. I thought CPA would fit me. So I just chose to do CPA, where I joined Royal College of Accounts, and I enrolled for CPA Section 1 because I was qualified.
Before you continue, Francis, our viewers might ask themselves what kind of chores that you did, or what kind of jobs you did while you are in between for the Form 4 and before you joined the college. What are the specific jobs that you did, or what are the labor that you did in back in the Ushago at that period?
Those ones were not a walk in the park. So because I used to go and dig, I could sorry, I used to dig for some people those trenches for planting like tomatoes and the French beans and what have you. I could go and pick majani chai. I could go and even cut Nephian grasses for neighbors who maybe were well off, for a payment of around 150 a day or 300, okay, between 150 and 300 a day. I could go and during the seasons of coffee, because I come from those places where there is coffee plantations and we have tea zones. I could go and pick majani chai. I could go and pluck coffee during those seasons of coffee. And yeah, there were several activities that I used to do which were very tiresome. They were very tiresome actually.
Okay.
And bearing in mind, from primary, as I've explained, after coming back from school, I could go and hunt cattle, of which it wasn't a hard job. After primary school, immediately I joined high school, and I used to after I crossed school and during holidays, I used to help my parents in doing just household chores. So I wasn't used in those difficult activities and in difficult jobs. So after high school, doing those jobs, it was hectic for me. It was really hectic. But at least I didn't have anything else to do, because now during our times, during those eras, as in after high school, your parents could view as in like you are man enough to do it by yourself. So I had to go out there, and at least I need to dress properly. I need a good pair of shoes. I wanted to look like a good man, someone who is presentable. So I had to do those chores. At least I earn a penny and make ends meet. Yeah.
Now take us the journey for you from the time you joined the college up to when you completed or when you graduated.
Again, viewers, as I joined college, actually it was challenging. Okay, I thank my parents irrespective of the challenges that were there, but you can imagine going to college. At least nyinyi mnatembea college mkiwa na those suitcases carrying a lot of clothes. But when I was going to college, you see that paper bag that you normally buy at 10 bob. By that time there were those nylon papers.
Is that green or yellow?
Not that of green, at least that presentable paper bag, the one that you used to buy from a supermarket, which had two handles that you could hold this way. Yeah. It was somehow presentable. That is all I used to carry. That was my suitcase by then, my briefcase by then. My suitcase by then.
Well.
So that's the amount of the clothes that I had while I was joining college. Okay, but that one didn't bar me from joining, so I just joined just like other students, though it was 2 months later after the normal enrollment was undertaken. So I joined, and I had to work extra hard to catch up with other students. I joined CPA Section 1, where I did well. As I've told you, I didn't want to frustrate myself. Actually, I overruled my parents. I didn't want to frustrate myself because I used to focus so much about my future. I did well in Section 1, I did Section 2, and I did well. After that, school fees became a challenge. Now, I had to study for myself. I just asked my parents to rent me a house so that I cannot be far away from school, from the library, that is the National Library. Those who come from Nyeri know where the National Library is. So I used much of my time there, studying there. And I did my section 3, where I chose to combine in section 4. I pursued well, and I passed. Yeah, I passed my section 3 and 4. And after that, it became hectic for me to manage school fee, not school fees, but exam fee and the enrollment fee. That is the renewal fee for those people who have done CASNEB. So it became difficult for me, and I had to quit. Now, it was back then home, where I went home. And after I imagined of what I'm going to do with my CPA section 4, and it wasn't easy to get a job. As I told you from the start, I didn't have a mentor, someone who could mentor me, at least you can do this, you can do this. It was out of my own mind where I chose to do CPA, because naturally I was good in mathematics. So I went back home and continued with those labor work that I used to do there before, where I went on with them for a period of 1 year, and life wasn't becoming easy for me. It wasn't becoming easy for me, so I chose to look for an alternative way, because now it's just you, yourself and your God. Your parents, you are done with them. Now I started thinking of what to do. And I used to hear much about Nairobi. Actually, it was my first time to come to Nairobi. By the time I was enrolling for CPA, it was my first time to come to Nairobi. That was back in 2009, because I enrolled direct from CASNEB Towers along Upper Hill. So Nairobi, I didn't had experience with Nairobi there before, and even thereafter. So I looked for a friend. There is a friend of mine who used to stay here in Nairobi. Actually, even now, that was back in 2011. Even now, he is still in Nairobi. I called him and requested whether he can accommodate me, and he accepted. Of which I wasn't coming to do anything. I was just coming to look for a job. You see, naturally, the kind of system of education that we have in Kenya currently, it's teaching us, you do well in primary school, you pass well, you join a good high school where you pass very well, you join a good college or a good campus, you get good grades to get a good job. Of which I think that system of education, according to me, should be changed. Because as I've told you, after completing my college, I didn't have any idea. All I had was, I'm going to look for a job. Of which the mentality that we should encourage today's students and today's students and today's generation, today's generation is, you are supposed to study hard, get good ideas, get good grades, of which it's not a crime, get good grades, study well, then after that you just be a good entrepreneur, someone who will have a good company. That company will employ those people who got good grades, who studied hard, who got good grades, and those who are looking for a good job, so will enroll into your companies. So I came to Nairobi, where I was accommodated by a friend.
And while you are in Nyeri, where you stayed by yourself, ulikuwa unajipikia ama ulikuwa unakula huko nje?
Yeah, I used to cook for myself. So we were two. we shared a room with someone who was already in school, so I used to share notes with him. Whatever he has studied in school, and I used to pick his notes. I used to study, and as I've said, during that time I used to combine section 3 and 4. Actually, CPA, one semester goes for 6 months. So for that period of 6 months, I used to pick his notes, and I combine with whatever I have studied in library. So yeah, after combining those two, that is what brought about success in section 3 and 4.
Now you have come
now I was a student and existent by But now, from where I had come from, that is back in the village, that was the last resort, as in me getting back there. So we decided with Benson we can start a small business. Actually, at that time he was cooking those gumu. Then gumu, you know kagumu. I used to help him early in the morning because he was employed at Westlands. We used to live in a ghetto. So we could wake up at around 3 a.m.
Ghetto gani hiyo?
Ilikuwa inaitwa Deep Sea. Actually, I think even right now is in existence. It's along just near High Ridge 11A. Those vehicles which move along 11A.
Parklands.
They are Parkland, yeah. Hapo High Ridge. But we used to associate ourselves with High Ridge because near Masonko. Now, where do you come from? I come from High Ridge. Lakini hapo hivyo kuna ghetto iko hapo hivyo. It's called Deep Sea. Deep Sea, that's where I started my Nairobi life. Okay. Now we started a business. Okay, he used to cook ngumu, so we could wake up early in the morning at around 3 a.m. We could cook ngumu very well, and he used to encourage me with the Berico ones, and I used to feel motivated. Now, in the meantime, we thought of another business, and we started making chipo.
So where were you selling the gumus?
Gumus around in the estate. Actually, there were so many shops. You know, it's not an estate. It was a ghetto. Yes. I'm sorry, it was a ghetto. Remember. So we used to stay there, and early in the morning.
You pack them in the packets of
in the packet of 12.
Of 12,
yeah.
So you go dropping
to those shops, yeah.
Okay.
But he's the one who used to do that. Me, I used to help him because he knew his customers, his clients. So I used to help him in cooking, and then by 6 in the morning, we could have cooked a bale of ngumu. That is those 12 packets of We used to cook in that whatever. So he used to drop them into the shops, and he could write who have paid him, who have not paid him. So in the meantime, we thought of starting a business of making chips.
Chips.
Yeah, cooking and making chips. He had that fryer. The same fryer is the one which he used to cook ngumu with. And unajua uko electricity inakuanga tu ile ya kunyonya. So at the end of the month you could pay only 500 irrespective of how much you've spent. So inakuanga ile ya kunyonya. So we started that business of cooking chips, and I found favor in that business whereby I could cook a whole sack in a day.
A whole sack
of potatoes in a day.
Ile yenye inakuanga imefungiliwa.
Hiyo yenye inakaa hivi, inakaa kama iko na mtu mwingine juu hapo. I used to cook that sack in a day. So I used to, after akimalizia biashara yake at around 6 a.m. now I could start peeling potatoes. That is at the beginning. I could start peeling potatoes for myself. I peel potatoes up to around 9. Then I put on mafuta yangu. Then I start cooking chipo. I started that business with a small. I started with a small quantity. Then it started flowing, and so even I was nicknamed Wachipo in that ghetto. Yeah. Every time mtoto akitumwa enda pale hivyo kwa Wachipo ununue chipo ya mbao. So I used to be known as Wachipo. So Wachipo aliuza chipo. I used to cook a sack. Even a point ilikuwa inafikia nimeuza hiyo sack mzima. Alafu the second sack I could cut it that whatever imeongezewa hapo juu ningepata hata hiyo nimemalizia. So I used to work at up to around saa 5 usiku. Penye ilifikia mpaka I engaged 3 women who used to come early in the morning, start peeling viazi for me and chopping them and washing them, making them clean. Kazi yangu ilikuwa tu ya kupika na kuuzia customer. So Wachipo alikuwa amepata biashara mzuri.
You became an employer.
I didn't become an employer because it wasn't my business. It was my friend's idea. Oh. So I used to tunapika, and then there is a way you used to compute whatever we've gained from that business. I remember very well still, by that time I was accommodated by him.
Okay.
So tukafanya biashara, but unfortunately viazi zikapanda. Yeah. Where I used to buy a sack at around 1,800, 1,500, a sack went up to 7,000. Yeah. Now it became even difficult to continue that business because there are so many things which are associated with cooking chipo. Yeah. You could find kuna mafuta inahitajika. We used to buy it in 20 liters or whatever. There is tomato sauce, kuna hizo viazi, and so many things. Now it became difficult because you have also to compare about to look on the profit margin that's being left with you. So at times you could find you are operating at a loss. So instead of operating at a loss, you'd rather shut that business. Yeah. So we chose to shut the business, and the ngumu thing continued. After that, now I was left with nothing to do. After tukipika ngumu mpaka saa 6 in the morning. Now after that there was nothing else that we are doing. Meanwhile, unfortunately, someone from nowhere was looking for an accountant who was needed somewhere. So that one didn't come through connection, though it is the thing of who knows who. So ni mtu alikuwa ameulizwa whether you know someone who have done accounts who can do a BCD. And luckily, through a friend of Ben, now Ben was was spreading the gospel as in, I have a guy who have done accounts, he is looking for a job all that time. So he was much concerned. So by God's grace and luck, that friend of Ben came to Ben and told him there is a friend who is in need of an accountant, and I was connected with him. Now, I was given his contact, and after calling him, he explained to me where I should meet him the following morning. The following morning, I went all the way to Mbereview along Mombasa Road. Hapo hivyo kuna opposite Red Cross, kuna Manda Hotels offices. I went there, and I met Muhidi, who engaged me to a very short interview. Actually, the match he was looking for is the handwriting, whether you know mambo ya dates na credits and what have you.
Handwriting?
Yeah, my handwriting. Actually, because the position that I was being, it's a big company where we have so many, there were so many accountants. Now the position that I was given was the creditors. The creditors were being involved with paying for those people who have supplied to the hotel. Now I used to write checks, so that's why he was measuring much in handwriting there. So he had to check on my handwriting. He found it was fit, it was nice. And about credit and debit, whether I know how to reconcile, about reconciliation statements and what have you.
Guys, make sure your child has a good handwriting. You see, it's a boost to getting a good job. Yeah, make sure he writes or she writes a very good ABCDs. Yes, continue.
So after that, I was engaged by a Muhindi, and I was given a position of in accounts payables.
Wow.
Accounts payables. Though you don't expect that they are being paid that much, you know. Remember, I'm living at High Ridge.
Yeah.
I had to connect. No, it's don't deep sea. It's called High Ridge. I had to commute all the way to town. Then I connect to Mombasa Road.
Yeah.
So you can see that fare to and fro.
Yeah.
And then you've not counted about your other expenditures as a human being, like lunch and what have you. So actually, most of the time I could find myself skiving because I used to be paying 12,000 sharing. When you compute 12,000 at the end of the month, actually you are almost negative.
What year was this?
That was back in 2012.
2012.
Yeah, 2012. Now, I worked for Muhindi. I was given a 6 months, it's kind of a contract. It wasn't kind of an employment. I was kind of engaged for a period of 6 months. And then after that, something emerged in between and I had to leave work for a period of, after 6 months, yeah. I worked there for a period of 6 months, and after that I had to leave. Now after leaving, I went back. Okay, in that period, after getting a job, I had to move now. I stopped relying on Ben and then look for my own accommodation. Yeah. I looked for a house which I used to pay a rent of 1,800.
Yeah.
It wasn't that expensive.
At
High Ridge, yeah. That High Ridge, that for the Masunkos. Now I used to pay a rent of 1,800. Now I had to start live before that 6 months elapsed. I looked for my own house. I bought my own bed and everything, all those items that are required for a startup. Yeah. And I started live. Now after the lapse of 6 months, I had to move from Manda Hotels back now to the house. You see here I'm paying the rent of 1,800. Now I don't have a job. I used to be paying 12,000, of which savings wasn't easy. Considering the distance that I had to travel, my expenses at the end of the month, I had to eat, I had to do everything. I had to buy a new clothes as an accountant in an office. I had to be smart. Actually, you could see an accountant of 12,000 with a tie. You couldn't even imagine working in the ghetto, High Ridge. Now I had to get back into the house, and now I started disturbing my friend again. Now my friend told me to go to the hotel in Westlands and look for a job there. I had to meet actually I was given a connection where I met the owner of the hotel. We talked, and then he gave me, I think it was somehow dead promises.